Good morning everyone, it's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video, and the heat wave has arrived in the Pacific Northwest, which means that there are two things you should know. One, face cam will probably not happen as much because I want to be comfortable, and part of that comfort involves keeping myself cool in ways that may not be appropriate for YouTube. So, you'll just have to deal with no face cam. I'll still do it for some videos and all that, but, you know, I kind of want to be comfortable when I'm recording and not sweating my ass off. Two, to further my cause of being comfortable, my AC unit is now on. So if you hear some random humming in the background, it's probably that, and the mic is picking it up because the mic's pretty sensitive. But I want to be comfortable. So with that out of the way, today's video is all about Beatdown Battle. So just like last meta, they have restricted the free-to-play SHION dupes only to EX3. So in order to get all of our dupes, at least from this event, all you have to do is beat EX3, which is not the most terrible thing in the world. I mean, the first time we got EX meta, Gobta was locked behind Inferno 3, which was real dumb. So they changed that last meta, and they have kept that change this meta, which is good, because the difference in power between EX3 and Inferno 1 is quite large, because the Orc has 307 HP, 14.8 attack, and 8,000 defense, and then when you go up to Inferno 1, he now has a million HP, 15,000 attack, and 10,000, almost 11,000 defense. So quite a significant jump, mostly in HP there. So, it is nice that EX3 is not as difficult. It can still pose some problems for people because he can still hit you very hard, and he likes to counterattack. I've noticed that with every Beatdown Battle now, is that their counterattack rates are out of this world. So, wanted to do a video on alternative teams you could use, not just slamming the entire new meta against it, because obviously we know that it can work. So today's video is going to be a little bit of some of the new units, and then a lot of older units that can still do it, that I've pre-recorded gameplay. So with that said, let's get the first team on screen. Alright, I have like 4 teams to do, and this is like an 8 turn stage, so I'm going to speed these up a bit just so we can get through them and not have the video be 45 minutes long. This is the first team though, so we have the new Protector Velzard, so you might have to pull her in order to run at least this specific team. But then we have the hero, who has Rewind and is going to give people crit. We have Shuna for the orange orb changing and alt buff. We have Water Rimuru for the green orb changing. We have Space Milim, who's going to give herself the Drago boost and the space buff to everybody, and then Carrion as another orb changer for oranges to blues, also the crit damage giver, and he has an own personal attack buff. Milim and Carrion are both on Dragon Hakai and Warrior's Mind, which means that we can use Velzard to get those 12% stacks on both of them and help them hit, you know, ever so harder. So let's go ahead and start this up. The hand is set for the new guy, so unfortunately if you don't have it, you just can't do it, no matter what. So we have Rimuru up front, so you can change the 2 greens into 5 blues, and then you can at least send 5 blues. If you have the full protection, you know, traits active, you can get at least 1 stack turn 1. So now we're going to swap them out, bring in Carrion and Milim, because they are our primary damage dealers. Velzard is giving extra damage for physical characters, so we're going to send Carrion last, because he's going to do more than Milim is. Plus, after turn 1, he gets defense and magic resistance, which means Milim's going to hit even less hard than before. So there's 2 stacks. You can see it both went on Milim and Carrion. I have a healing charm attached to her because the Orc does hit pretty hard, and we don't have anyone who's type advantage here. So I want to make sure they still live, because I've had a few runs where they just straight up die. So we're going to send all these Milim orbs. Unfortunately, using that turn 1 orb change and then those 5 blues only gets us like 38 points. So oh, sorry, I reset. So, I mean, well, same thing still happens, so we could, well, I don't even cut. We'll just continue. The same thing still happens. I'll continue. I guess you could use a few skill point buffers turn 1, and then maybe on turn 2 you would have enough, but I think you would need all 3, and then you wouldn't have any protection gauge, so I don't know if that trade-off is really worth it or not. But here, so we got 4 oranges now, again sending Carrion last. This is unfortunate, because we only have 48 points, because those oranges were nerfed. So we still don't have enough to do a full hand, so I'm just going to send this 1 green, because we have another orange coming in. And now we have a 5 hand of Carrion, which is good, because that'll get us his ult, we can use his orb change here, and then we can not have to worry about him for the rest of the fight until we're ready to nuke. So we can hold him in the back and then have Shuna up front, since they both have the same orb change going on. So that works. So stack of Velzard again, that's 2 stacks now. So 24% extra attack, of which Millim's Drago effect will amplify that at the end when we're ready to nuke, because that's what Drago does. So here, we have a good orb change. We are going to use the rewind now to give us even more protection gauge, which we didn't really need. We were going to get 2 anyways, but it allows us to keep building up. We can stack 2 of them onto Millim, get her and the hero healed up a bit, because it's going to hit. It's like 8% every time, so 16% extra HP right here, so almost topped up. And then we're going to send these 2 greens and hope that we can get a good orb change next turn, which we did do. So now Millim has her ult, we don't have to worry about her anymore, so we're going to swap Water Rimuru out. I think I used Drago first though, just to have it in the event that we somehow don't have enough points, which doesn't happen. But we do get a good orb change hand, so now we're going to send another full hand of blues, sending the hero last because she is physical, and she'll get that extra damage, because as you can see, Water Reamer is doing 1 damage, and Shuna's doing like 500, so we are taking counterattacks though, which is not the greatest thing in the world. But because I want to send full hands of blues to get stacks, I can't really bring in my 2 other units from the back, because they both have ults. So I kind of just have to leave them. Thankfully the hero didn't have any orbs here, so I could get a stack on Carrion, and then we'll go ahead and send this, and it doesn't really affect our orb hands. So this is now moving on to turn 8, which is the nuke turn. And thankfully we do have orbs for everybody. So it doesn't really matter because the hero doesn't have an ult. We don't need her to have an ult, but we need her for her crit, so she could at least still come in. So there's the crit damage, the guaranteed crit and resistance down, the space buff, and then the crit buff, and then an orb change for funsies. 1 more stack of Velzard to get us that extra attack, and then we'll go ahead and send these 3 Millim orbs, Carrion and Millim. So Millim does 36,000, Carrion does 68k, which honestly was not as much as I thought he was going to do. I thought he was going to do about 100k. Millim did almost 200k because of Drago, but Carrion really let me down there as far as damage output. Only 68. So there's one team. It assumes that you have Frey, but then you have like this old space meta, which is the old half anniversary meta. So there's one team that can do it. Let's move on to the next team. Next, Water 2.0. Millim Rimuru, Dark Valentine, which as you can see from here, I got her up to 96 because I'm going to skill revamp her first to get that extra 20% on her ult, but I still need a few more emblems, and I don't have any of the rainbow enhancement skills for that specific type, so we gotta wait and pray that Predator Battle treats me well over the next couple days, which so far it hasn't. But so that's in the works. And then SHION, Hinata, and Shuna. So if you don't have Hinata, you could bring the new Fantasy Millim. She is still water. She will get the stacks from her, from Millim herself. SHION can give her crit. It's just that we probably won't get as many crit damage stacks as you would normally see on her own team, because these are all high cost skills and they're only going to get more expensive. So you won't see like 67% crit damage. You'll probably see more like 40s, maybe, or something. But she can definitely work if you don't have Hinata as a nuker. So let's go ahead and, let's see, I gotta speed this up a bit because it's also pretty slow. Alright, so let's start this up. Really, the process is the same though. Rimuru is still here to orb change turn 1 into 5 blues, and then you're pretty much off to the races for 7 more turns. It's really not that big of a deal. You could use almost any stacking team, which is generally what I use in this entire video, is all stacking teams. So first we did Velzard, now we're doing Watermelon. Next we're going to do the Shuna, which you would think would not work that well because the Orc has pierce resistance, but we'll talk about that when we get to that point in the video. So unfortunately, these runs do not give me the best RNG. So we have one blue and a whole bunch of nerfed everything else. So I'm just going to have to burn off a whole bunch of orbs and we get even more. So even with terrible RNG, if your team is, capable, you can do it. And yeah, I get it that I have all 100 units and it's not realistic for other players who are newer to do this, but it's to give you an idea. It's not the end-all be-all strategy. It's just here to inspire you to try something else if you don't have Guy, Velzard, and Valentine. Because most of these units, actually all of these units, are on the general pool except for Octo Valentine, which is technically free to play, right? Reamer is free to play. The Water 2.0 team's been out since, August of last year? So it's been a hot minute. So here, another good orb change with Shuna. We can get the stacks on for all 3 of our units here, which is good. Again, you could swap Hinata for Milim, and we would be done stacking now, because this is turn 5, so I don't know how many skills we've used up till now. It's not too many, though, because we were sending a whole bunch of crappy hands, and we weren't doing anything with them. So there's the ult. We do take a decent amount of damage. Shion's down to half HP, but both her and Hinata have ults now, so we can go ahead and pop Hinata's own buff, and then send her away, because she doesn't stack at all. We can hold that in the back. We can bring Valentine in, and then we could use another stack of her ult, get a little bit of heal on Shion, and then we could do this. We have enough points to steal all these orbs, and then still use both of these orb changes, and get a full hand, which will bring us back up to maximum points, or almost max, and another stack of Milim, which, unfortunately, I don't think I actually use. I think I use it here in the event that we can get Shuna's ult, but I don't bring in Hinata or Shion again, because I want full hands of blues. So there's our third and final stack with Valentine, so we're now at a permanent 60% ult buff right there, and then me contemplating bringing some Win in, but I don't, so we just use Milim to buff up Shuna. Hopefully we get more orbs for her, because I kind of want her ult, and unfortunately it doesn't quite work out like that. So I push another turn. You don't have to push another turn, but I did because I wanted her, because I wasn't entirely certain that Shion and Hinata by themselves were going to kill because of the magic resistance that the Orc has. So I wanted a third ult as insurance. So that's why we did that. We have 2 stacks of Milim now that we can put on everybody on turn 9, just help them hit that much harder. And now we're ready to go. Unfortunately, Reamer is dead, but this is just to beat it. This isn't a everyone alive kind of clear, so a necessary sacrifice. At least it wasn't like Shuna, because we kind of need her. So now we can do the 2 stacks of extra water attack, and then we could use pretty much every skill on the table right now, because we have enough. So, we don't need to use Hinata's buff again. We already had it, but whatever. So we got a full send, full buffs, 3 ults, and we're ready to go. And Shion does 70k, which is more than what Carrion did. And then 161 from Shuna, and she killed. So I was wrong in my assumption that we would not kill with just Shion and Hinata. Maybe we not have, because we had 2 extra stacks, I don't know. But there you go. The Water 2.0 team can do it. Let's move on to the next team. Wind Hinata has type disadvantage on this stage. However, the Fount of Wisdom team is pretty good, so Hinata says, yeah, I don't really give a shit. So Diablo is lowering ult resistance, which is good for everybody. We've got Trainee to try and force Hinata's EX ult, along with orb changing. Albus, there you go. Albus is here for the green orb change. Gobta is here for his buff if we happen to use it. Hinata's the nuker. even though she's type disadvantage, and then Rimuru is here for his orb change. So technically we have 4 orb changers on this team, alongside a crap ton of strong buffs. So this does work. Yeah, you kind of have to hide Hinata a little bit, and you definitely cannot let her take an ult unless you're very confident in your HP levels, but ideally you wouldn't have her up front. So here, instead of using Albus, I use Trainee. That way we can get rid of one of the oranges and see if we can just get a good hand turn 2 without having to use like another special convert or something. But here I rethink my orb sending strategy by not sending Albus, or sending Albus last instead of Hinata last, because she's type of disadvantage and she's not going to hit very hard. But unfortunately, my plan for orbs did not work out, so we got a whole bunch of shitty greens. So we're just going to send the orbs in the correct order again. So Hinata's doing like 1600, Rimuru's doing 19. Alright, a whole bunch of more oranges, so the game still doesn't want to work with me. But we still managed to get it done, except he's loving the counterattacks. So finally we can get an actual full orb change here. So we can use both of those and get those out, and then we'll go ahead and send this. I do want to try and force the EX ult, but I just don't have enough points to use orb changing plus Trainee's force, so it is unfortunate. Another stack of Diablo, and then I think we can orb change out of this. So we'll use the special convert, we'll use Rimuru's orange convert, and then we have enough for Trainee to do everything that we need, actually. So let's go the special convert to make a full hand, and then the alt buff. So now we have a 5 hand of Hinata, which is great, because that gets us fairly close. And then we send the last orb with Rimuru, because he's going to do the most damage. And then there's the ult. We didn't take that much, but then his follow-up hurt, so now we kind of have to be careful with how long Hinata can sit up front. So we're going to swap out Rimuru for Trainee after we use his orb change. And then we'll use the force again. And then we'll get Hinata out of here. After do we use her orb change? What do we do here? What do we do here? Yeah, we send her out, and then we just get rid of these greens. Thankfully, we get pretty good luck right here. So because we haven't used Albus that much, we can use that orb change, but we can't use the alt buff, or the alt force with Trainee. So we use the point buff instead, and we bring her back in because we had a lot of orbs and we could guarantee that we get her ult, except we take that counter, and now, had he targeted Hinata, she would have been straight up dead, which was a risky maneuver. But now we're on turn 8, and now we have 2 ults, but only enough points to use 2 buffs. And since he has pierce resistance, we don't use that one. So we use the Hinata buff, and we have the Rimuru buff. So hopefully the Rimuru buff plus Hinata's ult is enough to kill, plus these nerfed orbs. Hinata does 184, Rimuru does 60. Thankfully, the nerfed orbs still have enough oomph to kill him. So it's not the best thing in the world, considering our nuker's type disadvantage, but it does work. And you do not want to use that pierce resistance down, because he has 70%. So technically it would have only been like a minus 20% resistance right here, but it still would have cut our damage, and there's no reason to do that when we only had enough for 2, and the other 2 were going to help us a lot more. So let's try the next team. Alright, so I know I'm contradicting myself here, but you don't want to use Pierce because he has so much. We're going to bring a Pierce team, just for funsies, because I know it'll work. So we've got Shuna, who I also have sharded up to 92 now. She used to be 84, so I gave her 10 shards, just because she is a pretty good protector in the event that you need this kind of power. Raphael is 120. Albus is here for orb changing for greens, and the pierce resistance down. So the orc has a natural 70% pierce resistance. We can cut that down to 20%, which still means that we're going to do a little bit less damage, but this entire team is focused on piercing, right? Alongside stun striking. But a lot of the power comes from the pierce. So in order to help us do as much as we can, even with the nerf, we need to lower his resistance down so we can do almost normal damage. So that's why she's here. Also, she's got orb changing. Shuna's here for the alt buff and her orb changing. Lumi's here for her light buff and orb changing, and Milim is here for her buff and orb changing. So we have a very consistent team here, and the idea is just to outdo his resistance and hopefully just knock him down with my 120 Raphael. And it does work, obviously, since I put it in the video. So turn 1, same deal, still using the green orb change from Albus to get her out of the way. So we have, what, 2 green orb changers, 1 orange, and 1 stealer. So it's pretty competent build here. Everybody is magic, though, so we will do less damage inherently on top of the 20% pierce nerf that we're going to have at the end. So it is kind of a hairy situation where you have to be really confident, and you probably have to get quite a few stacks in order to guarantee yourself the kill on turn 8. So here, bad RNG, we send 2 greens, but then we get good RNG with just these 2 blues to orb change. We're going to bring in Albus for Shuna because she's going to do more damage because she's physical. So we send her... Oh, we don't send her last. That's a mistake, but oh well. Yeah, she was doing 23 and Raphael does 2,000, so oh well. This is not the greatest thing in the world either, but we can get 2 stacks at least on Val and Raphael, who are going to be the primary nukers here. I mean, technically we could also nuke with Albus being physical, and she would still have, the Pierce. I mean, we could. I don't think I'd do it, though, but we could. So here we're sending some crappy orbs, making room for Milim so she could steal these, and then we could use the green orb change for Albus, or, Val, whatever works for you. But then we can bring Raphael back in for Milim, and then we can make this work. So let's get you out of here, because you have the lowest HP, and I don't want you to take that ult. So this time we still send Raphael last, but now we have the ult for Raph, which is good, because now we can hold him in the back, because he is quite low. Quite low. So there's another stack, and then we take him out for Valentine, and then we could use both orb changes, and another 6-hand of blues. So this is going a lot better than the previous runs, as you can see. A lot more consistent, but I mean, I think we're just getting good RNG. It's just the team that would inherently do the least amount of damage, because we're magic and we're piercing. So we're on turn 7. We can get 1 more stack on. Do I bring Raphael in, though? I spend a lot of time thinking, but I do, because I want the extra stack, but I also want a full hand. So what we do is I take Raphael out for Albus after we use her orb change, because it's that 1 green, and we know we have 1 other orange coming in, and we're going to leave Shuna up front, which means that once we bring Raphael in, stack, and then swap Raphael for Milim, it'll bring that extra orange, and then we can use Shuna's orb change for the final 6 orb send. That's how that works, if you didn't know that. So there's another stack, and then in comes Milim, and look at that. We could have just waited, but oh well. So we use Milim's steal instead. Whatever. There's that, and then we send... This gets Valentine's ult as well, so now we have 2 nukers, plus Shuna, so 3. But Shuna's only here for the ult buff, so we're going to do that and get her out, because we need the Milim buff on Raphael as well. So we're going to sacrifice that ult for 2 people who are going to hit much harder. So now let's attack buff, let's stun, let's pierce and stun strike, and then we are going to forego the light buff with Lumi, because I need to lower that pierce resistance by 50%. Even though we're already giving ourselves pierce from Raphael, we need that resistance down. And then we get 2 more stacks of stun strike and pierce power, and then we go ahead and send it, and then pray. So Valentine does 166, 163, somewhere around there, and Raphael does 273, which is actually a lot more than I thought we were going to do. But it does end up working, and we were able to overcome that massive pierce resistance debuff by just almost fully canceling it out. So those are, I think, the 4 teams that I have to show you as far as alternatives for at least EX3, so you can get the free dupes of SHION, so you can get her to 120. Inferno 3 is going to be an entirely different thing, because most of these teams probably are not going to cut it, because he just does too much damage and he's too much health. So I'll do a separate video on Inferno 3, and it's either going to be the new meta, or you're gonna have to stun it and cheese the shit out of it. But again, that's a different video. If you have a different team that worked for this, please put it in the comments. That way it can help other people build even more teams around it. But that's it from me. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.